Good afternoon. My name is Doug Wood, and today I'm going to be talking about supercharging your router. And I'm going to start off with some PowerPoint slides, and then we're going to jump into a demo of some of the features that I've talked about here and introduced in the routers, where you actually will see the web menu and actually the command line function. And then I'm also going to remote in to a couple routers I support, one at a children's home and one at a school, to demo some more functionality that I have installed there as well. Well, the challenge is some people could not make the presentation and ask that we record it. And what I'm concerned of is I'm going to be bouncing around between browsers and all that, and I just don't know how this is all going to end up. But I would be more than happy to have a makeup session for those that couldn't make it today. And this stuff is always evolving, so we'll just see how it goes. Now, what I want to do is talk about why bother. Some of the routers that you would buy and you just have what they call the firmware. Think of it as software for hardware. It's not going to be all that feature rich, you know. Some of you, maybe if you have your internet service provider here in Thailand and they supply a router for you, I can tell you the firmware is probably going to be called crapware. It's just going to be very limited in what you can do. And for most people who just want to browse the internet, it's probably okay, you know. But for people like me who, you know, want to block ads and do things like use a VPN, and at the school and at the children's home, we need to block, you know, certain sites, right? For children, it's not safe out there. So your normal router that you would buy off the shelf, this is not going to have the firmware on there to do that. Improved Wi-Fi performance. A lot of the newer routers that you can buy will have the 5 gigahertz band. And that's almost double the speed of what you would normally get off the 2.4. You also have, like I mentioned earlier, the VPN client. I can use this firmware to route all my traffic over to the VPN or some of it. And I can do it depending on the IP address of the device, or I can do it based on the kind of traffic. And I'm going to demo at the end. I have a monitor here, and I'm going to show you the Roku. And what I did is I have my Roku, anything that's going through Sling TV is going to a server in LA. And from Sling TV, that's considered a major market. So I get the Fox network and NBC and some of those other major network channels that I wouldn't get in a smaller market. And right now I have the rest of my traffic looks like I'm in San Diego, and I can stream Netflix and Hulu and get around the blocks that put up, because right now Netflix and Hulu do block VPNs, but the company I use has a way around it. So it's a little game like whack-a-mole. Whack-a-mole. Parental controls, I talked about that. If you want to limit your kids to only certain times of use or what kind of sites, we can use this firmware to handle that. Write, install custom scripts. So I'm going to be showing you later on today a tool called Skynet, which is an enhanced firewall, where you can look at all the hackers that are trying to get into your router and probe it, what ports you're trying to probe. It's amazing. We'll look at the ad blocking tool. Not only is it blocking ads, but it's also blocking a lot of malicious websites and things like that. So you can use this firmware to have a space on the hard disk, on the router, where you can install these scripts and programs. It's really, really cool stuff. And more frequent updates. A lot of times the guys that are writing this firmware are now they're really into it. It's a hobby for them, so they're always updating it. And a lot of times they're more ahead of the curve on applying security patches than the company itself. And install additional programs. What I'm going to do really quick, and hopefully we don't lose the recording, is skip to get my mouse back over here. I had a little survey handed out. We only had about 7 people at the meeting, but I just want to talk to this about, kind of ask you, first of all, who's your internet service provider? One person, they don't know really who it is, just their department provides it, okay? So if that's the point, you're going to be limited in what you can really do. 2 people had Skynet, one True, one had Comcast in USA, not here in Thailand, and one had 3BB. And actually, I have 3BB as well, okay? When I first got here, we had DSL. Today, what they have here is DSL. It's not very fast, but now fiber is being rolled out here. It's very fast, and if you want to use some of these features, especially with the VPN, you do need a faster connection, okay? We started out, I think it was 100 megabits per second download, and I want to say 20, but now they've almost doubled that. I'm getting almost 200 down and 100 up. So it's really good. So the faster, if you want to do things like the VPN on your router, the faster you have on your WAN connection, the better. So here's what some of the speeds people reported. So the 50, 20, 50 down, 10 up, that's fine. You'll be okay. If you really want to stream 4K video, they say you need at least 25 megabits per second, okay? So most of the situations I see here, you'll be fine. So most of the people that have internet service provider here, especially if you're using fiber, they're going to give you a little fiber combo modem/router, okay? What I did at my house is I basically disabled the routing function and turned it into a modem, okay? And I have some screens where I'll show you where I did that. And all I did was change it to called bridge mode. So it's just acting like a pass-through. And I'll show you another demo. If you're kind of locked out by what your internet service provider gives you, what I'm doing here today is what they call LAN to WAN connection, and I'll show you how we set that up. Okay, we have some different brands here. You see the Fiber Home, that's one of the ones a lot of times your internet service provider will give you. And then I asked how many devices do you connect to your Ethernet. So not too many people are using their Ethernets on there. Most people are using the radios. So that's where, again, if you have a router and it has the 2.4 and the 5, you're going to be better off using the 5. You'll get almost twice your speed. My dad, for the longest time, he didn't ever use the 5. I go, Dad, you can double your speed. I showed him the speed test, and I'll show you a screen print.
Don't get as much distance.
Distance is your issue, yes. That is your problem. They don't like going through cement walls very well. So 2.4 is going to be the winner there on the distance. And I asked, what do you know? Do you know basic Linux or Unix commands? And most people did. And if you don't, if you've had some exposure to Windows DOS, where you're, change directory, remove directory, delete the file, you know about 10 Unix commands or Linux commands, you can do some of the stuff I'm talking about. And guess what? You go to Google, basic Linux commands, and it's there, and it's very similar to DOS, right? So we can do that. And most people, of the 6 people I asked, 5 were using VPNs. So today you're going to benefit from some cool stuff I'm going to be showing you. And are you familiar or not with the 801.11 standard, IEEE? And I have a slide. You don't have to be an expert on this. I'm not. But it's just good to kind of know about it, because you could be shortchanging yourself if you don't set your radio right at home, and you could actually be doubling your speed if you have the right setting, or you could be limiting yourself and not knowing that you actually have the capability to make it go faster. Oh, and do you use an ad blocker? No, 3 people, sometimes 1, and yes. Okay, there's ad blockers that you can install a browser plugin. I have it installed in the router. I'm going to be showing you that. I also have a PFSense appliance at home that I'm playing with as well, and it has a similar kind of tool. But what's cool is I subscribe to the CBS All Access because they got this cool new Star Trek series coming out here in a couple of weeks. And by using the ad blocker, even though I'm paying for the version, the lower, like the $5.99 version with ads, I don't get ads. Also, the CNET is, does a lot of reviews of technology. It's blocking those ads. I don't see them. It's awesome. So it's really cool of what you can do. So I just kind of wanted to show you, the background, and I think with a lot of you here and your skills, you'll be able to take advantage of what I'm showing you today. So we'll close that out. Okay, this is hard to read. This is a standard. Let's see, I can't go too far, can I? About the middle of the screen, you're going to see one called N. It says October 2009, 2.4/5, okay? And that's where a lot of the wireless devices were stuck at. And your router, if you look at it, that's where it might be at right now. But if you go down one, you'll see one called AC, and that came out in 2013. And so if you have it set to N, but you also have the option to AC, you won't be able to take advantage of that faster speed. So if you look at, it's kind of hard to read, but if you look at on that one that says AC, you'll see 20, 40, 80, and 160 bandwidth in your GUI, and I'll show you, you'll have the options to choose that. And depending on what value you choose, those are the speeds on the far right that you can get. You can get up to 200 megabits per second, okay? And what just is kind of still, the very bottom is called AX. I didn't mean this to be a eye exam today. That's up to 10.53 gigabytes per second. But you know what the problem is? Your device can't support that right now. And probably your internet coming into your house isn't even that fast. So a lot of the router companies are really got to be, and I'll have a couple of slides on this, are giving you, all this marketing stuff about, wow, this is a super fast, but look at, if my internet speed's 200 megabits per second coming into my house, it's not going to really make a difference for me having that extra speed, okay? So we'll show you more in the demos where you can kind of make those settings and change them. Mouse over here. Okay, this is the one I just talked about that Asus just released, or they don't have a formal release date on it, but they just announced it. It's RT-AX88U. And this is the one that's supporting that new standard. It's really still in development. So I'm kind of excited about this. I'm sure it's going to have a really good CPU, but you notice the gold colors. If you look at my router, we'll show it to you later. It has red around the antennas. So even though you have ability to support this faster speed, a lot of times the devices we have won't support it. I have an iPad, and I was playing around with my radio a few days ago on one of my routers, and I changed it, I think, to AC, and my iPad didn't like it. It wouldn't talk because it's not made to support it. So it had a setting called AC/N. So then it was happy because it's telling me, okay, my device can't support AC, but the iPad can't handle the N. So you'll have to kind of know what you have in your house and what it can support. Okay, this is a test I ran. I showed my dad, I noticed you're not using the 5 gigahertz band. So the top one is a 2.4, okay? And then the second one is when we did a speed test over the wireless using the 5 gigahertz. So it's like almost, it's double, really. So if you're not really taking advantage, if you have that on your radio, you really want to take advantage of it if you can. Again, distance or going through cement walls is going to be kind of your issue. If you really want to get crazy, you can buy access points and string around your house, but my place is small, I don't really have to do that. So just kind of know that. And then the other thing you'll kind of see is these different routers advertised: AC 1900, AC 2400, AC 3200. And this is a lot of marketing hype. So I want to just make sure you know what this means. The AC 1900, what they do is they take the 600 megahertz speed, or gigahertz, the 600 megahertz speed on the 2.4 and add that to the speed in the 5, and that's how they come up with the 19. And then on the AC 2400, they do the same thing. They take the 600 and then they plus the 1,733 5 gigahertz, and they round it up to 2400. And then you have these AC 3200s, which are tri-bands, which you have 2 5 gigahertz channels and 1 2.4. And I really don't know what the use case is for 2 5 gigahertz channels. Maybe if you got a kid and they're gaming and you want to just kind of free that up. Now the advantage of the 5 gigahertz again too is if you get into an apartment or a high use living area, most of your people, neighbors around you, are going to be on the 2.4 band, and you might run into channel interference. And so going over the 5 might be a way where you can eliminate that channel interference. And then also there's other devices like microwave ovens, baby monitors, and the cordless phones that also use that 2.4. You might run into interference there as well. And then you have the 5300 tri-band routers. Same thing here. There you have the 802.11 standard. You have 1000 on the 2.4, and then each of the 5 gigahertz radios takes over 2000. So when you see those numbers, wow, you know, it's not necessarily better. You know, it's just, here's just really the difference. But they'll use that to try and get you to, you know, bite the hook and to take the bait on that one. And again, the key point here is very few of your devices, your iPhones, whatever, your tablets, your laptops can really support anything above 300 megabits per second. Okay. Okay, another thing you'll see a lot is this thing called MIMO. That's streaming the data signal from the radio simultaneously. Okay, and whereas right now it's kind of single-threaded. And right now you'll see that you'll see 2.2, 3.3, and 4.4. But again, a lot of your client devices can't support it. But they'll really use this to like, wow, you know, we're 4.4 MIMO. A lot of the people in the forum just turn this off. They don't even bother with it right now. They think it's not ready for prime time. So again, it's a big marketing thing. It doesn't mean that a lot of devices are really ready that can support it at this point. But if you're going to get one and it supports it, get the 4x4, you know. Maybe down the road, you know, Samsung or whoever will come out with other devices that support it. Okay, what I'm going to talk about today is what we call this open source firmware. This OpenWRT was one of the first ones that started. And then following that was DD-WRT. Has anybody heard of DD-WRT before? Okay, a couple of you have. I'll be giving you a demo of that. I have that installed at the children's home. And then there's Tomato. And then the one I really like a lot that's become my favorite is this Asus WRT Merlin. And that's what we'll be doing majority of the demo on today. And then there's a few other minor ones. I haven't any experience with those, but I just want to let you know that they're out there. I want to kind of not spend too much time on these slides, but just know that this one is one of the first ones, and it's not, it does have a steep learning curve on it. It's not as easy to configure as the one I'm going to spend some time on, the Asus. So it does have a steep learning curve, okay? And it's not really supported on that many devices either. But it is feature rich and has programs that you can install. DD-WRT would probably be my second favorite one. It's been out about 10 years, but what I kind of found the issue with is some of the documentation on it is a little bit outdated and not up to date. And there's some features that it does not have, but the Asus Merlin does have that really makes me like the Asus Merlin a lot better. And I really like the support form better in the Asus Merlin as well. But if you want to jump in on this and you have a router at home and it doesn't support the Asus Merlin I'm going to show you, probably more than likely it'll support DD-WRT, okay? And because I don't want to screw up the demo right now, I was going to click on these links and show you these sites. And we'll see how we're doing on time later on. But there's this supported devices, and it's huge, a long list of devices that will support that firmware. Okay, now the thing is with DD-WRT, it's real easy to brick your router if you don't do it right, which is not good. And you have to start a procedure where you first download two files. One's called the factory to bin flash file, and then the other one's the file containing the actual firmware. And you have to do this procedure called a 30-30-30 reset. So what you do is on your router, there's usually a little small button. You take your pin and you press your pin into that and you hold it down for 30 seconds. And then after 30 seconds, you pull off the power, hold it for another 30 seconds, and then push the power connector back in, hold it for another 30 seconds and release it. Then you get at a screen where you can put this factory to bin, and then you flash with that, and then you'll get a screen where then you can put the new firmware on there. And if you screw it up and you do it wrong, you might brick the router. And what I did here is went to go update DD-WRT. There was a new version, and it'd been a while since I had done it, and I kind of forgot. I should have gone back and read the instructions, but what they recommend is you do a factory reset before you do it. And what you're doing is you're clearing all the memory and settings out of the router. Well, by not doing that, it ran out of memory is my suspicion. So what I ended up with was this red blinking light on my router. And I had to go through this procedure to get it working again. This is a picture a guy sent me that helped me, and I'll show you the cable in the next slide. And you have to go in and make the connections like that into the router. These are what they call the serial port connections. What I did is there's this cable called a USB to TTL, and you plug one end into your USB port, and then there's little pen headers, and I found there's a little store by Where Market, and the little guy sells these. I think it cost me, only like 20 baht, and I soldered these little pin headers into my router. And you have to be careful you do that. One guy, he held the soldering iron too long, and it burned his ports out, so he couldn't recover his router. Luckily, he had posted his problem before I got to mine, and I was just a little dab of solder is all I did. But I have a Raspberry Pi, and so I thought I might want to use that cable, so I didn't want to cut the ends like that you saw in that one picture. So if you ever do that, it's not that bad. I can do it in my sleep now. Once you make the connection, you open up a serial connection, and then you hit Control-C madly, and then you get a command prompt, and you issue this one command called NVRAM clear, and it brings up the firmware that you had on there, and everything's good again. Phew! So you can recover this router that you just got done spending $120 on, and it's not, a paperweight or anything like that.
So, where did you get that cable?
I actually had an order from the States, but I found there is a company online here, it's called RS, that had them here in Thailand. I just didn't know. The Where Market is I bought those pins that it's connected to. You can see it better in those little connectors. And hopefully you'll never need them. And you can do like what the other guy did. He just cut off the little connectors on the end and just, stuck it down in there. And it really helps if you have somebody helping you. Like I almost wish I had 3 hands when I was doing it, because my hand I was trying to hold the router between my legs, and sticking my pin down in that little hole, and then watching my stopwatch for the 30 seconds, and then it kind of slipped off. Luckily, I started it from scratch, and I didn't have any problems. But you almost want, somebody hold the router solid, so I leave my hands free to, take the power and pull it in and out and things like that.
Also, I want to add I'm a DD-WRT
Yeah.
user, and I was able to successfully brick a router, and I found out you can buy it on eBay, pre-installed on any brand name. You get it for $29, $39. So if you don't want to go through this procedure of soldering, it's so much easier for me, for my skill level, to just get it. So that's why I have a couple of routers.
Yeah. It's called flash routers, and they do sell routers already pre-installed with DD-WRT. Okay.
When I went to look at the database on which version, oh my God, there's so many versions.
Yeah, and they say even there's this called this Peacock thread, and you're supposed to read all that, and even they tell you don't rely on that database. Go to the forum and see what people are recommending. So, and that's the good thing about the Asus Merlin, you can't brick your router with it. You can't, it's impossible. It is so user-friendly. That's another reason why I really now favor it. And if I had to pick between the two, I really like the Asus. Now what I did is I've repurposed some routers, make access points out of them using DD-WRT. And it's been fine, So I just, flash that on there and make an access point out of it. It's fine. Tomato is another one. It's not supported on too many, but why I want to mention Tomato is because the Asus firmware started off Tomato, and they tweaked it, and so that's the beginnings of it. Okay. It's more user-friendly, but I think primarily just some Asus and 1 or 2 other manufacturers it supports. And just basically, I'll mention these. There's even more than this out here called Gargoyle. Libre, WRT, DebWRT. You want to take a guess what WRT means? Okay, 10 baht if you get it right. No, it means wireless router. Okay, so this is what that means. Okay. So, you know, some of these, again, they're not very feature rich. They have these different packages. Packages are mainly software, additional tools that you can install on there. So this is my favorite. I put on here the link if you want to check out the guy's website, asuswrt.lostrealm.ca. He's out of Canada. I think on another slide here I have the links to the support forums called snbforums.com, and that stands for small net builders. And it's a great website. They have really great tutorials on there how to set up your home network, how to create VLANs. They do reviews of routers, network attached storage. I'll just show you, there's the links there. Now his primarily goal is he doesn't want to deviate too much from the stock firmware that Asus offers, but he wants to fix some of the defects that come with it, and he wants to enhance some of the features. And where he's really enhanced it is on the VPN side of things, and also on some of the graphs and things like that. Done a lot there. And they also have a really good wiki too, and that's one thing I mentioned on the DD-WRT. That's some of it I find has been outdated, it hasn't been maintained. So a really good site, check it out. They're, like I said, just a wealth of information. They have reviews, pretty current reviews of the routers, and they're independent of any manufacturer, so I trust their methods pretty well. Everybody done copying? Okay. Okay, some of the things I'm going to show you today is one of the guys has written this program called Skynet, and it really enhances the firewall. The firewall is pretty good, but this gives me a little bit more visibility into who's trying to hack. Also, you can, what it kind of does too is it sees, oh, I see scans coming from this IP address, and it shuts down that scan. So, I mean, it's not like these guys can really get through your firewall as long as you have it enabled, but it kind of disables them from even doing scanning. And then they move on to somebody else because, it's too hard. They're seeing they're not even getting through and not even able to probe the ports. And there's this feature called IP set, which a lot of these script writers are using, and the guy who does the ad blocking is using, where you can take hundreds and thousands of these IP addresses and create these IP set lists to block traffic internally on your router with very small, hardly any overhead impact to the performance of your router. Whereas DD-WRT cannot support that. I did put it on one of the routers to support, but it was a hack getting it on there, and it wasn't the most recent version. So again, that's one thing I really like about the Asus WRT. I'm going to try this. I guess I'm going to click on the links here and see if it brings up my browser. Yes?
Seems like there's a lot of block lists out there. Do you have a favorite?
I've got so many, a lot. And that's one thing is use it in combination. Get my cursor back. I lost the screen. It's challenging here. Let's see. Here's my. There we go. Get this back. Okay. Let me try to minimize that a little bit. Oh, unfortunately, it's kind of hard to read. Okay. What I'll show you is okay, this are the different things that the malware blocks that he does. And so there's a lot of lists. There's these firewall lists. spam, malware, bad host. So these are all, if you install this Skynet, this list will come with it, okay? And then you have the option of selecting the malware as well and blocking that. And then also I'm doing some country blocking where I pick like China, the Philippines, and India, certain countries that are known to harbor, you know, bad actors.
What's the advantage of having ad block on the router instead of on the computer?
That way you don't have to run anything on your devices, this whole house. And then also too, I'm able to, on my streaming media, it's blocking the ads there too. So, and what's really cool, I'm going to show you some sites with ads and without. You know, it's just night and day. Like, wow. And your internet browsing experience is so much faster. So when I'm in the gym and I'm away from my router, I found on my iPad, there's a little ad block browser. So I'm using that now there. So, and then I know some of the sites, they figured out how to get around Ad Block Plus, I think it's the plugin. So it's just nice to have it done at on the whole house level, so every device is automatically connected.
Well, I don't have anything like that, but my ad blocker on my browser leaves the source site aware that they're being blocked. Is that the case?
I've only seen a couple of news sites, I think Wall Street Journal might have been one, said, oh, we recognize you have an ad blocker and you have to disable it.
Yeah.
So
Is that the same? Does the ad blocking have the same effect when it's in the router?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they'll see that. But it's only, like I said, there's only a couple of sites I've known that I've seen that problem. So you just go in and disable it if you have to.
There's a lot of sites that have it more and more. In Forbes, Washington Post.
Yeah, I think it was Forbes. Yeah, it was Forbes that was doing that, yeah. And eventually it's whack-a-mole and somebody will come out a way to get around their detection, you know, on it.
Where did you get this list again?
This list is, I clicked on the link. This is a guy that writes he's on GitHub, which is open source. And Adam is his name. You can search on Adam00 or Skynet. And what I can do is send these links and post them on the Facebook page or the Geeks, Check My Geeks.
Geeks would be good.
Yeah, I can post it on there. Okay, the other one I really like is this is one of my favorites. This is an AB solution. This guy's based out of Switzerland. He's really good English. He is very helpful, very active in the forums, and he's always updated. He's kind of gotten this product now to the point where he's not much more he can do to it. He's looking into, have you heard of Pi-hole? It's an ad blocker that you can install on a little computer that becomes part of your DNS server and blocks ads. So he's looking to somehow combine functionality and make it more of a menu-driven ad blocker. But it's really easy to install. There's no cryptic commands that you need. And what's really cool is to get an email stats. And I'd like to show you the email stats. Where is that? Okay, let me click on my... See, that's the trouble with two screens here. Got to go back. And drag the screen over. Try again. I know I got to make it really small before I drag it over. That. Not liking me dragging it over. Let's try now. Try one more time, then we'll have to move on. There we go. Okay. So this one is for the school I support, and it comes up with the date that it's sent. So every Friday I get this email from it. It tells me how many domains that it blocked. There's a blocking file that there's different host file combinations that you can pick from. How many ads were blocked, and then new ads. What it does is it gives you some statistics for the top 10 domains or top 10 clients that you have. So say I've got some teacher laptops, I got some phones and things like that. So it picks the most 10 busiest ones. And it tells me these were the sites here that people requested, the top 10, okay? And if it's blocked, that was actually in the blacklist file, so it got blocked. And then here's the top 10 ad domains. And Google's really wants to know a lot. It spends a lot. So these were all the blocked ad domains as well. And then here's the different 10 of the IPs. And it tells me their IP address. This is their host name, the percentage, and this is the top domain that they requested. And I don't really want to be CyberCop or anything, but it was helpful because I saw, oh, this thing was blocking iCloud. Well, iCloud's okay. Shoot, man, you might want your photos backed up, so I knew I had to go in and whitelist, but otherwise I don't really look at it too much. And then here is some of the, for the Windows Server, which they use, what we have there. These are the different things that get blocked there. And I have another tool that I use for blocking that I'm going to demo called OpenDNS. But this is just another way, the ads that are primarily showing you to block. So it's kind of nice to see that. Yeah, let's get this closed down. Okay, back to this. This is, it's terrible to see it. This is the menu. There's the main menu, and then the one on the right is the sub-menu, and this is where you can turn it on, set up your configuration for the email that gets sent to you. This is where you go in and you choose the blocking files that you want to use, where you can go in and then manually add in domains that you want to whitelist or blacklist, okay?
Can this only be placed on the router, not on the...
Right. This is only made to go on routers that are running the Asus Merlin firmware, okay? Now on the DD-WRT routers, I took a program somebody had written and modified it. So if you want to have DD-WRT, I'll help you set that up, that ad blocker on there. And these are the different host file combinations. He's got anywhere from standard all the way to ABMAX to custom file type. And so I mentioned I'm using this ad blocker, and I'm blocking the ads on the CBS All Access channel. And I changed it to this ABMAX a few days ago, and all of a sudden now I can't watch the videos on CBS All Access. So I started working my way backward, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out what domain it was that was getting blocked. There's a way called follow the log file. You can go in and see what it's requesting. And it's a little bit like finding a needle in a haystack, because you'll see a lot of domains flashing by, and I just couldn't figure out which one. So I worked my way backwards and settled on the ads be gone. That one it's not blocking my CBS All Access anymore. And eventually somebody will update the list. So sometimes you might run into that where you're saying, hey, this is valid traffic and I'm being blocked. But that's only my year of using this. That's the only problem I've had so far. Okay, so what these numbers represent is 1 is the standard, 2 is the medium, and so on. And then the numbers on the left, see, okay, if you choose standard, you're going to get those top 3. If you choose ABMAX, you're going to get everyone that has a 6 listed in it. Okay. Entware Packages. These are different programs. I know you can't read that. These are different programs that you can install on the router. If you are a BitTorrent person, there's tons of clients that you can install on your router to do all that. I don't know anything about BitTorrent really, but one thing we're using is called PixelServe, and what that is on your ads, it creates a GIF, an empty little GIF, and so instead of the ad showing up, it's just a blank white space. And that's coming from this Entware package, and that's what we use to install it. And if you install the AB solution, he'll install that for you. You can choose to let him all set it up, and he does a really good job. So I'm not going to pull up that link. The problem I have had is there's so many, but then there's hardly any instructions on how to really install and configure some of these. I'll show you, I'll demo a couple later on. How are we doing on time? We'll show you a couple of those. But you almost have to go Google search and find somebody who's written a little how-to, you know, okay, here's how to install this Entware package and how to configure it and set up and use it. And there's what I talked about, the Entware. It's a little mini web server. It just responds to all requests with nothing and gives you a little one-by-one blank GIF image. And I'll demo this HTOP and a couple other tools. Okay, the other thing with this firmware is you get this JFFS partition, and this is an area in flash memory where you're going to use to install these programs and store these scripts that we're going to use. So I'll demo that. And I think for the sake of time, I won't get into too much, but I do have a USB drive plugged into the USB 2.0 port. And I format it in the ext2 format, it's Linux. And if you were trying to plug this in to the router and go to the Linux and try and format it, there's some sites you can go to and explain how to do it. It's really hard. But there is a software tool called Mini Partition, which runs on my Windows laptop through a menu. I can plug this in, and I've got a 2 gigabyte thumb drive, and really easily I just divided it up into 4 partitions. One is for the ad blocking tool. The one is for another tool to back up my router settings and back up the JFS partition. The other one is used for the Skynet to do writing of statistics to. And I forget what the 4th one is I'm using it for. But anyway, so don't try and do it through the Linux command line. It's hard, it's complicated, but just know that there's Windows tools out there that you can format these things. Then there's also those FAT32. If you buy these in the store, they're going to come with FAT32 by default. And then there's an NTFS, like I had some external hard drives, and I plugged that in initially to my USB 3 port on the router and use it as a Samba share. So I can use that and stream my music from it. You know, I can then remote connect to there for my music files and things like that. For the sake of time, I mentioned earlier that I took my fiber home router and I disabled the routing function on it and turned it into bridge mode. And here's a setting right up here, just says bridge on there. Cursor over there. And that's all I did. And then the other thing I did, since I don't really need the radio anymore, I disabled the radio and I disabled D8CP. Okay. But caution, if you disable D8CP and the radio, you cannot connect to your router ever again using Wi-Fi. So you'll need to do Ethernet connection to it. And because you turned off D8CP, it's not going to assign IP addresses to the device. So you have to go in the back slide there, I used my Wi-Fi card adapter, but you go into your Open Internet properties on your laptop, and you right-click on it, and you say Properties, and you get that box on the left, and you go down to where it says IP4, Internet Protocol version 4. You right-click on that, choose Properties, and then you get away here where you assign your static IP address. So if my router is 192.168.1.1, I just have to assign it 1.2, 1.3, 1.5, anything other than 1.1, and it'll come up with that second line as a subnet mask. It'll default to that setting on your Windows. And then the third line, you just give it the gateway of the router, which is 192.168.1.1. And now I've never needed to get back in there, though. I just did it one time because I wanted to take screen pictures. If you want, you don't have to turn off DHCP, but I just did. So, okay. What I'm doing here today is I'm doing a LAN to WAN connection. So the modem here at the restaurant is the one that's authenticating with the internet service provider. And let's see. Here's a little page here. I went into the router, and normally you would see a screen here. I'd say PPOE, and then another area I put in my credentials, user ID and password for 3BB. But I called it automatic IP. And now it's assigning an IP address of something like 192.168.1.whatever 30 to my router. But in my router, I'm setting my IP address internally in my router of 192.168.3.1. And the key is that third octave needs to be something higher than a 1. So I could do 2.1, 3.1, 4.1. So that's the point here on this slide, is the main router is 1.1. Your secondary needs to be something like 2.1, 3.1, 4.1. Okay?
Now this is doing what? I'm sorry.
This is called a LAN to WAN connection. So if you have one of these combination modem / routers that your internet provider gave you, but they say, no, we don't want to let you get in and turn it off, do anything to it, you can kind of get around it doing it this way. Okay, I want to get past this slide slow now because I think we're kind of got 2 o'clock, so I need to get busy on showing you some of the stuff with the router. Yeah, holy moly, this thing is really weird. I'm going to shut down the PowerPoint because that's a mess. Let's save. Oh, I'm shutting down the PowerPoint here. Now bring the browser up.
Is that the recorder?
I don't know. I'm just going to go with. Let's see. Oops. That's another router. Sorry. Show bookmarks. Asus. Okay, this is the login page for the router. Please, on your routers, go and change the default user ID and password. I've gone to 2 businesses now and showed them that they've left it admin. And you can go to any website and it'll tell you, you search for what's the default user ID and password for a router brand, and it'll tell you. And usually it's 192.168.1.1. So I've gone to Butter is Better and helped them out in this place where I go to the gym. So this is the main menu, which you log into. I really like the graphical user interface. This is kind of the landing page on it. I know it's kind of hard to read, but right now, this is the WAN, telling me I'm getting a valid IP address, which is coming from the other router. Over to the left is different menu options. This is telling me how many, I can tell I have, my phone is connected, and I had my Ethernet connection earlier, so it's still showing that, oh, there it went away. So it shows you who's connected. Shows you on the USB. I don't have anything plugged in the USB port. One thing I've done before, I've taken a USB 2.0 hub and I've plugged in like 4 USB drives, and it recognizes all 4 of those. So you can go crazy. The advantage of the USB 3 is it's so much faster. Okay. Unfortunately, the 3 port does not support using a hub. Okay. What I want to show right now here is on the administration page. System. Okay, and this is what I call the administration page, and I'm going to come down here to this little section right here. What that says is format JFF partition on next boot. So when you get your router and you want that area where you can write to install scripts, you're going to want to say yes here. And then enable that yes on that second line, and then you reboot your router. And then what it does is formats that little area on your router that now you have that disk space to use and write to. And then you're done, okay? You don't have to do much with that. The other thing I'm going to be doing in order to access my command line, I'm using SSH, which is like Telnet, but it's with a secure socket connection, okay? So it's encrypted. A lot of people have been hacked that way because they come in here and leave it LAN and WAN. Don't want to expose any ports to the WAN. You're going to leave yourself open up to trouble, okay? So make sure it's only on LAN. And I choose port 22, which is the standard. I turn off the login because what I did in the client I'm using called Mobile X Terminal, where I'll use to connect, it has a way to create keys. So you've created a public key and a private key. So I create a public key and paste it into this box, and then I have my own private key, and the two talk, and so that way, you have to have those keys in order to connect. Before, it's not required. I never used that, but I felt I needed to be more secure. So I was just basically coming in. I said, make sure I have to log in. But when it comes to SSH, I just wanted to lower my risk. Not that I'm worried about it too much. And the other thing I did recently is made sure I enabled this HTTPS connection on my connect to my web GUI. So it's encrypted, okay? I right now have it as both. Then I'll probably, when I get done, I'll disable that so it's just HTTPS only. So again, if I have other sites up and somehow somebody's sniffing and seeing what I'm doing on some other site, that traffic between me and my router and settings I have are encrypted. They can't get in there. Firmware upgrades, this is what I'm talking about, is it's so easy to upload and create new firmware here. All you got to do is download the file. You'll have it the zip file. You unzip it, and it's one file, TRX, and all you do is come here and say Browse. And let me go to show you the file, see where do I have it, documents. Okay, here is what was included in the firmware that I last downloaded. You unzip it. There's a change log, a little README file, a little checksum, to make sure the download was okay. But here it is, one file. And you come here and you pick that file, and it may take about 3 minutes. You'll see a little status bar going across the screen. And then when you're done, it's always good just to do power off, wait a few seconds and power it back on, and you're done, okay? While for the sake of time, I went longer on the PowerPoint. I'm going to jump right into the router. I'm using a tool called Mobile X Terminal, and it's free that you can install. So what I'm doing here, I didn't end up going with the paid version because I just have so much stuff. And by having the paid version, I get to have unlimited lists on my left here. I've got different clients I connect to. So I'm going to come in here to 3.1 is my router. And here it's asking me for that passphrase that I set up on my key. So I'm going to type that in. And I typed it in wrong. And now I'm at the command line, and it's doggone it. That's what I was afraid of. That's why I was going to have that other monitor here in case I get washed out. I can't make it any bigger, unfortunately. Where the scripts go is in a file called JFFS/scripts, and this isn't the same with DD-WRT, right? And if you go to the wiki, there's other folders out there as well. I'm going to go up one level, and the command is ls -al on Unix, and you'll see the ones, it's kind of hard to read, D have a directory in them, but there's this one called configs. And I have this file here called profile.add, and this creates different aliases for me, shortcuts. So every time I want to go to my scripts directory, instead of going change directory cd/jfs/scripts, I just type in JS, and I'm there at that directory. And so I have other things in there, but there's lots of tricks that you can do. There's this command called block stats that I based, and it tells me some statistics. And that's just totally impossible to read, isn't it? Do you want me to try the monitor? I mean, you have to get really close. I don't think you guys can really appreciate that, can you?
I don't think even with your monitor that's over here, we won't be able to see either.
You know, let's give it the Boy Scout try. It'll just take a minute. I mean, that's what I was really afraid of, is the thing just really washes it out. I think that's going to be better.
Are you on Windows?
Yeah.
Then you may be able to make it even better if you use ease of access for Windows 10. Because you can enlarge fonts that way.
So let's see how this
Oh,
goes.
that's good.
Yeah, I got to go to HDMI. I might have to. Let's get rid of this. I think that's better, at least for me from here. Maybe you guys want to scoot around or something. Okay, the trouble is let me just have to make a little trick here. Okay. Is that better? I mean, we can move it. I can move it a little bit more closer. Okay, so here's this command called block stats, and if you see the code for that, it's kind of long, a bunch of grep and sed, and I'm doing all kinds of weird Linux stuff, right? And this is stuff that I learned on the forum. You know, guys said, oh, yeah, do that, you know. And so what this tells me is these different lists that are being used by these programs to block things. It gives me some stats. I can make sure it's working. I can see how many packets it's accepting, how many is it's dropping. So this is just really an example of using an alias file to create commands or shortcuts. So I can type JS, and now I've changed to my scripts directory. Okay. Let me start up the ad blocking tool. So I'm going to have to go kind of quick here for sake of time. And this is the menu here that comes up. And what I'm going to do for you is show you a couple websites where ad blocking is, maybe I should turn it off. Then we'll go to the websites. Okay. So I'm going to come here and I choose option A. And it says, do you want to turn it off? And I say yes. Okay, so now I'm going to open up a browser session. And you notice down here in the browser, you see it spinning, you know, it's calling all these ads and things like that, you know. Now look at that mess. Okay, those are ads, right? And who knows if some of those contain malware. I don't know what side I'm on. Let me come over here to this one in the local paper. So I have a couple sites where I'm always checking to make sure that my ad blocking is working. Little slow internet connection here down at the River Market.
Yep.
So spinning. And oh, I get an ad. Well, nice. Oh, God, I got to come here and click on something and get out of my way, you know. Here's one more. Used to work for Ford down in Southeast Michigan, so I follow the sports teams there. So I go to Detroit News. And with the ad blocker too, the sites load faster. It's not having to go and process all those ads as much. Like that. Let's close this one down. I think you get the point anyway. I'll go ahead and give this 1 second. There we go. I got to find out. I want Ford to keep doing well because hopefully I'll still get a pension from them when I turn 65. So I'll come here and make sure that the auto industry is doing. But you see again down in the left-hand corner all that loading. And here's that ad, you know, again. So now I'm going to close down this browser because when I got my Firefox set to clear the cache, and I'll turn it back on, enable it. And let's go back. And the worst one was a speed test site. I'm going to have to close my browser all the way down, I think, because it cached it. Here's a minute. Let's open a new one. Might have to close it all down. Okay, just a minute. Okay. So what you saw is because of the browser cache, and you have to sometimes get false positives in the results. So now you see I don't have the ad. Well, that one's coming. Okay, that wasn't a good demo. And it could be the way I'm coming through the router. But didn't we, when we tried this earlier, it wasn't. We tried another browser. And that's great about live demos, you know. It works every time you test it and everything, then you go. I probably should have showed you without the ads first and then turned it on.
I have to go in and clear the cache, and have to go through that process when I have to.
And that's what I thought. I should have Firefox set to clear cache. Let me just pull up Chrome because I wasn't on Chrome.
Firefox's caching is really crap.
And something I might have changed something. I thought I had it set to every time I exit, the cache is cleared.
Got a program that finds duplicated files, and you find the same file in Firefox's cache multiple times.
Yeah.
So why are they caching it?
Okay. So here now, the ads aren't showing up, so it was a caching issue. One thing I want to point out, I'll jump to this next. What am I doing in San Diego? I am routing all my traffic to a server in San Diego, okay? So if I come here and I type, you know, what is my IP address.com, I'm in San Diego. This is my private IP address. I use a company called TorGuard, and they were one of the first ones that could get around the VPN blocks put up by Netflix and Hulu. And the way they do that is they give you an IP or server that only you use. And I think the way Netflix and Hulu were detecting users is they say, why are we seeing a lot of these people coming in from this certain IP address? So all these VPN companies have servers around the world or in the US. So they say, well, I'm seeing hundreds of connections coming from this server in LA. And that's why. So if they even got even more where they can detect, then I would just simply buy a router, put it at my stepson's house, configure the VPN client or server on there. I would connect to there because they're not going to shut down residentials, okay, and get around that way. So anyway, that just shows you what a difference, huh? And it loads so much faster. You know, it's huge. I want to show you the screen. I'm going to jump back into the browse. I mean the router again. Somebody's chirping. Okay, one thing that really got me into this is when I came over here, I was doing some research. I was going to first go to the Philippines, and this guy wrote this little ebook. Oh man, you want to get a VPN, you know, so you can get around some of the geo-blocking and things like that. So I first signed up to OLA. Howard and I were talking about that, and I read some stuff about OLA that was bad, where they actually can use your connection once you sign up. So I didn't want other people coming in and bouncing off my address. Howard, do you remember what all the issues were with HOLA? Something like that, where other people, clients would come in. Remember OLA, we were talking about that today, that VPN company? That was kind of, I thought it was a risk. You know, I read enough on it that caused me concern.
Oh, the HOLA and the
Yeah.
BetterNet, which I like BetterNet.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, the reason I got into this, because there's a company, the first one I signed up for, they said, oh, you can install it on your router, but it has to be DD-WRT. So that's why I learned what's DD-WRT or what's tomato, you know. And so I had a D-Link router, and so I flashed it with DD-WRT. And then, you know, I go, man, this isn't very fast. And this is where I learned about, you know, yeah, if you're going to send traffic over an encrypted tunnel, it's going to be slow, you know, because it has to do all that encryption. You Google search, OpenVPN connection slow or performance bad. You're going to see a lot of grown men, you know, crying about this. So what I first did is I didn't use any encryption. I said, I'm primarily using it for streaming media. Let's turn it off. Then we got the faster fiber connection. So I went up to the AES 128 CBC, I think it is, which is one of the lowest levels of encryption. You know what? And I go do a speed test. Sometimes it says only 4 or 5 megabits per second. I think and every speed test site gives me a different result. So here's how I think my theory is: the speed test sites are really only your last mile. So when you run a speed test, it says, where is your ISP coming from? Oh, I'm in Chiang Mai. So it tries to find a server right around Chiang Mai. And then it pings that server to where you are at. And so your ping time, like when I was doing this from home, it's only 25 millisecond, whatever the megabytes per second or whatever. But when I do a speed test connected to my VPN, it says 235 is the ping time. So what that's telling me, it's doing this, the server that it's pinging is really close to San Diego, but then it's got to send that halfway across the world. So I don't really believe the speed test results over a VPN, and everyone gives me a different result. My thing is, do my web pages load fast? Yeah. Probably the ad blocker helps. Can I watch 4K video with no buffering? Yeah. You know, so I'm going to show, we'll see, I'm curious how the Roku works, but I think the Roku, I also have a CPU inside the Roku, whereas, you know, some have those little Fire Sticks, you know, that you can plug in, and they don't have CPUs. So I think maybe the CPU in the Roku may helps. So that's kind of how I judge. Is my internet fast? Can I watch a live sporting game, NFL game, and not have any buffering? And I do. It's none at all. I mean, Netflix will start off with a little buffering right at the beginning, and then that's it. So here's a page here, and it shows you I have 2 VPN clients running. This is the first one for San Diego. The second one is for LA. And what I'm doing is everything pretty much goes to San Diego, except if you're Sling TV, you're going to go to LA so I can get more channels. And what you do is you come into this VPN client screen, And here's basically how to set it up. And I wrote a little guide. I posted on this Small Net Builders forum for the TorGuard people. There's some guys that are PIA customers, and they wrote a little guide. So you put in the IP address that's assigned to you and some other settings. But really what I emphasize here is you can choose to route here all traffic, where you say all or none, or policy rules. And so what I've done here is saying everything goes through the VPN except when I take my laptop and I connect it to the Ethernet, then that goes through the native WAN. Sometimes I need to connect to the native WAN, do some testing on some stuff. So at my dad's house, he wanted everything to go through native WAN, but his Roku player goes through the VPN. And he's connected wirelessly. At home, since the router and everything's in my home, I do through the cable, Ethernet cable, and it works fine. And here's some other settings that I don't have time to get into, but this kind of just helps with the VPN performance. So for the sake of time, what I want to do is show you the Roku a little bit, because we're at 2:20. I want to show you just quickly. I'm going to exit out of here. I don't have too much time today. We can have another meeting and we can do this again and get more detail. I want to show you the Firewall, that Skynet tool. Firewall status info. Okay. What this is telling me is how many IPs there's down to the bottom. So some command not recognized. I type something. Oh, status. I'm just gonna get my commands. Stats. Okay, there we go. Okay, what's scrolling up here is how many IP addresses this thing has detected and blocked. So this one's interesting. I think this is a 1. And what you can do is you can copy this URL and you come into your browser. And it goes to this alien vault, and it'll tell you about the IP addresses trying to hack into your router. And it's just amazing how many port scans my router is getting every day. So again, you make sure you change your default password, don't expose anything, don't expose your management GUI interface to the WAN, turn that off, make sure it's only LAN only. So this is from China, and it tells me that this is a known bad actor and it's a malicious host, so be careful how you interact with him, okay? I'll have to send you those links in the other email. Unfortunately, that screen was really washed out. You know, where I showed you all the different block lists that Adam was using, the guy who wrote this. And he's a very nice guy. You post a question on the forum, and he's really responsive. I'm not sure where he's from. I'll show one more thing here. This is just kind of a debug info. This is where I blocked the different countries. See this line here? Where it says block banned countries, that last white line. You have to be a little careful. I was trying to go to that DD-WRT site. I think they're hosted in Germany, and I had Germany blocked. So I had to unblock Germany. You know? So you kind of have to be careful with what you do. But I mean, China, I mean, I don't know. I think AliExpress is okay. I'm still able to get to that, no problem. But it's about minimizing your risk. Man, I'm going to have a part 2. I'm running out of time. With the 5 minutes left, do you want me to show you the Roku really quick? Are you guys interested in that? Or I can show you. I can VPN into the school and show you, some more things there. But I've already got this set up. Why don't I show you the Roku real quick? And then I'll just have to have a second part. I didn't realize we were going to go so long, because I just really kind of skimmed the surface. So let me set that up. So this is the Roku 4 here. And I got it last year, and a few months later they came out with the Roku Premium. Not much difference, but this supports 4K video. And what I noticed, it kind of runs hot. I set it on one of those USB cooling pads. They said the newer one runs a little cooler. I don't have any problem with it. Unfortunately, I think they only made them for the USA. Now they maybe make ones for Europe, so you have to be very careful. And this is a step-down converter. So you want to make sure that you use one of these, otherwise you'll fry it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is plug it in, get the lint out of there. Get it untangled first. Step-down converter, very important.
It's fairly rare these days to get any.
I know. I was doing research online, and I found some guy. Somebody was talking about it, and it's like, doggone it, So I'll have to use that. Okay. Let's plug that in. Have to take Ethernet here. Okay. And I have this, don't have it set to go through my Wi-Fi, so we'll just, hopefully this is long enough. Yep, let's do it around. HDMI.
2 gig of RAM.
I don't know the specs. I can't remember. But this has really made my expat life over here so much more enjoyable. And the Sling TV has a DVR in the cloud, not for ESPN, but most other channels. And I found, like, for the college games, they ESPN 3, they have them on there for like 5 or 6 days later. You can come and watch them. So it does a little. Now, a lot of the channel, I call it smart TV on steroids. But if you didn't have the VPN running on the router, I couldn't watch Netflix, I couldn't watch Hulu. It's going to say, or if I try to use a lot of VPN providers, it's going to say proxy error.
Why can't you use VPN?
Because I want to run it off my router. I mean.
No, but you said you couldn't watch. If you didn't have it on the router.
Right. I don't want to.
That means if you had it on the computer.
Yeah.
You
I could not. No. Okay. I could probably pull up my laptop, have my VPN connected, and I could go to the Netflix websites and watch it individually. Sling TV, you cannot. I don't think I can watch on. I've not tried to watch on my computer. Okay. But I've gone.
Watch Amazon.
Yeah, you can watch Amazon, all the other things.
So
I know
Roku
if-
is a streaming service.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Slingbox, I have a guy from USA. What it is there's a little, he has it on his daughter's house. He has a cable connection at his daughter's house, and that Slingbox allows him to somehow remote connect and watch the cable TV. What I want to show you that's really cool, and I didn't really show you the script, but I have a script that runs here when I start up my router that'll make all my Sling TV traffic go to LA, and I'll show you that because we're going to go, and I'll show you the NBC channel. It'll say should say Los Angeles. If not, I'm going to have to run my script. I should probably run it just to be sure.
Plus for subscription?
There's this blue and orange package, and I think I'm paying $39 for the orange and blue, and we'll show you. A month. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to go down, these are different channels. Sure. Okay, I have to run I'm going to run my little script here just a minute. I've got still. Okay, now it should work. This was really cool when I figured this out. Again, there's this guy in the UK, and he is a guru on this stuff. And when people come in and they have these different requirements to how to route things through the VPN, this guy is a go-to guy. He can be a bit of a prick at times. I mean, you just say the wrong thing, he can just, so I'm always trying to be nice to him and stuff. Okay, I'm going to scroll all the way to the left. Sorry, I'm going fast. Okay, so Los Angeles, NBC Los Angeles. Now I get the Fox. And so if there's that if I want to stay up at 11 at night late, I can't wait. It's got to watch that football game. Then I got it. If I was coming from San Diego, I only get the streaming version of Fox, on-demand version, not the streaming. I get the on-demand, so I can't watch live TV. I got so much stuff here. I'm not hurting for things to watch. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's really weird watching the NBC Today show in the evening. But you can. I can come here. Let's just see how this works here.
You can't record anything?
You can. On Sling TV, they have a cloud, DVR in the cloud service, which is really cool. Okay. So I might see at home I don't get any buffering, but obviously there's some. This is only 5 megabits per second here, guys, so I'm not surprised.
Do you have to use that remote control in your hand? Can you use a mouse?
You can, no, you can't use a mouse that I found. They have phone apps, so you can use a remote on your phone. So I wasn't surprised that they actually cut out. I have no problems with any of this. Now, they have this on-demand stuff. So I'm going to send out the links to some of the stuff we talked about, the ad blocking site. The guy has a Skynet, the SMB forms, DD-WRT. So that's okay. So if anybody tried to watch Netflix with their VPN and get that proxy error, PIA, doesn't work, right? You don't use it? Okay, so it's fine, I mean, even over this little, rinky-dink thing. So Hulu was the first one to block VPNs, and then Netflix started doing it last year. You get a proxy error, you try and watch, it'll detect, so again, TorGuard can get around it. I'm going to work with TorGuard and get a discount plan, because I've had several people buy it and stuff, so I'm going to talk to them like, hey, we got Chiang Mai expats, and they all want to use it. This one guy was so grateful a couple Fridays ago. I told him about it, and he can't stop thanking me. He can watch Netflix now. CNET's another one where, because of the ad blocker, I don't see commercials anymore on CNET. Awesome. CBS, I pay for the lower tier. I save $4 a month, but no commercials. So I'll go there because they got that Star Trek coming out. And on the CBS All Access, the only reason I probably got it is because Star Trek's coming out. But Hulu is awesome because you can see most shows the next day, live TV shows, but with no commercials anyway. And so to me, it's the only reason I got it because I just love Star Trek. I'm real excited about the new series. And for $5.99 a month, okay, I can swing it. Anybody want to see the Star Trek? Are you guys any Trekkies here? Come on, you gotta have more Trekkies.